Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Relationship Schools podcast. I'm your host, Jason Gaddis. What's up? How are we doing today? Are we surviving or thriving, people? Just do our little check-in. What's one word that describes you right now? Just say that out loud. Even if you're at the gym or driving alone in your car, just say it out loud. How are you doing? Depressed, anxious, scared, happy, sad, angry, invigorated. There's lots and lots on the menu. All right. And if you're listening with someone, of course, you could turn to them and tell them how you're doing. One word. And, we want to get honest here because most of us just say, good, fine, that's cool, social graces. But if we want to go deeper, we could just get more honest. I'm doing shitty today. I'm stressed. So see if you can be honest. Welcome back. If you're returning, welcome. If you're new, this podcast is all about growing through the vehicle of relationships, your closest, most high-stake relationships. That's what we're about. You all know how to kind of have lots of friends, 500 friends on Facebook, but not all of you know how to work through conflict or go extremely deep with another person and get super transparent and vulnerable. And that's the lubricant, guys, for good, solid, deep connections. Vulnerability. Thanks for your reviews, everybody. Here's another one from Hill Tavern Groupie. What's up? Saying life-changing. Thank you to this podcast for helping me understand why I do things I do with respect to relationships and how I can be a better partner to someone I love and want to grow with. I hope he also listens to this podcast as I think he'd get even more out of it than I already have. Thank you, Jason. You're welcome. We actually have a podcast episode, by the way, on that, to share or not share this podcast with your would-be partner. Can't remember what that episode is. Way back when. Probably in the hundreds or earlier than that. Anyway, we're approaching 300 episodes. Holy shit. Pretty awesome. So thanks. We're climbing the review status here on my way to a goal of 1,000 reviews from awesome listeners like you. If you're getting value, I do ask that you return the favor if you haven't done so already by just leaving a simple one word or one sentence, 10-sentence review. If I can ask that'd be great. If you've gotten value, all right? Okay, in this episode, I got my friend Tripp Lanier, who's been on the podcast before. All right, go back to episode 80 if you want to hear Tripp and his wife talk about how they went through a kind of a falling apart process and getting stronger together. It's a really inspiring episode. I love that episode. Okay. Episode 80. Check it out. Okay. This episode is just Tripp. Tripp is, we're talking about his new book. This book will make you dangerous, right? It's for men and women, but it says the irreverent guide for men who refuse to settle. So it's really about, it's an awesome guidebook, really, into personal growth, especially for men that are new and already successful in some area of their life. So I want you to check that out. Okay, Tripp's an author. He's a professional coach. He's host of the New Man podcast, which I've been on a number of times. As a professional coach, since 2005, he spent thousands of hours coaching people around the world to get out of the rat race, become an authority in their field, and make a great living doing the work they were put on this earth to do. He's helped business leaders, thought leaders, men, women, and he's interviewed totally amazing people on his podcast. Tim Ferriss, Laird Hamilton, Ryan Holiday, Dan Millman, Stephen Pressfield, Robert Greene, Mark Manson, Aubrey Marcus, Mark Devine, who's been on this podcast, Neil Strauss, blah, blah, blah. So Tripp and I were in a men's group together for years. He's a good friend and is an awesome guy. He's an integral dude, but he makes integral actually palatable and digestible. He's a dad, husband, just an outstanding guy. So check him out here. Let me know what you think. There's some really good action items in this episode. We're going to zero in on fear that men have and why discomfort is so essential to become the person you are. Getting okay with discomfort, right? Okay, enjoy. Stay tuned to the end for your action step. All right, welcome to the show, Tripp Lanier.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me back. Good to see you again.
Yeah, man. Great to see you. I wish I could see your family there sitting next to you, but I'll just take you, I guess.
You just have to take me.
Dude,
Third.
your new book, This Book Will Make You Dangerous. We're going to dive into this. So congratulations. Hell yes. This is a book for men, written by a dude in the trenches dealing with shit in life every day. So thanks for writing this thing, man.
Yeah, and there's nothing in there that's specifically just for men. It's just that my world is working with men, so it's written in a tone and a language for the guys that I'm most familiar with. So I've had women read the book and get a ton out of it too. So I don't want to feel like anybody's, I don't know, as soon as you say it's just for men, then a lot of women will actually go buy it because they want.
Oh, good. So it's good I said that.
But there's nothing in there that's specific to men, let's say.
Okay, cool. Tripp, just by way of intro, I know I just introduced you. Could you, what are you up to these days? Just a short little 1 or 2 minutes on you right now.
I'm primarily a coach. That's what I'm doing. Have been in the trenches with guys since 2005, working in this way of like, okay, I want to do well in life. I don't want to live in my car, but I want to do something meaningful. I want to align my values with my relationships. I'm doing personal growth, but I don't want that growth to end, or I don't want to have to sell myself or betray myself just to make a living or be in a relationship with somebody. I don't want to be alone. So I'm going to be in a relationship. Does that mean I got to sell my stuff out there too? So as a coach, I'm helping men navigate this world to have what they really want. And most of the time we're just going to bump into these fears. I'm sure we'll talk into that as we go, but I just see these things holding them back more and more. And it has them playing small, it has them playing a role, has them feeling stuck in a box in order to be successful or in order to be in a relationship. And that's essentially the work that I'm doing, is helping you guys draw that stuff out and then leverage it to be even more effective or to have the career, the profession, or the relationships that they ultimately want.
Yeah, amazing. And God, we met, I want to say in 2000 and maybe five? Was it 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, 15 years. What's up?
I know.
That's strong.
Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know. So wild. Before I met you and before we came together, I have a little history on what you were up to. But how did you had said to me right before we hit record, this is the book I wish I had way back in the day. I could have used some guidance like this. So what was going on in your life? I guess childhood, adolescence, 20s, whenever it was that had you kind of set foot on more of a personal growth journey?
Well, going way back, I had gone through, I was 13, my mother took her own life. So that's the big heavy turning point, but I didn't deal with it for another 10, 12, 13, it was actually close to 12, 13 years after that. I didn't have any kind of, I think I started doing some therapy, but it was really intellectual. I wasn't curious. I was in this really rigid, locked down, defensive place. I wasn't curious about the world at all. I was not into personal growth or personal development. Didn't give a twat about any kind of thing to do with spirituality. And then I had a huge, basically the house of cards came crumbling down, and had this huge emotional upside down experience for months. I was just in the dryer, tumbling around, lost 30 pounds, couldn't go to work. I was just in this crazy place. Went through all of that and came out the other side with this deep curiosity, what the heck just happened to me? Mm-hmm. I saw the world in this different place. I was experiencing things for the first time because I was giving myself access to my emotional world. I was wanting to hear about somebody's perspective other than my own. So I became this voracious reader. I got really into personal growth, really into spiritual development, started to become this, junkie, this retreat junkie type person. And, a few books in there were really pivotal for me, but there was nothing that ever, if I'd find something oh, this is good, but I can't really give this to a buddy of mine because he's not in the same places that I am. And so fast forward X years, and I'm having a conversation with a guy, and he's like, you should write a book. And I was like, I'm not going to write a book. Most of the books that people send me, I just throw in the trash. I'm not a fan of where they're coming from. They kind of keep us perpetually on this hamster wheel of all you need is just more XYZ, and then you'll be set for life. And I'm just sick of that. I'm sick of that false hope stuff. And he said, well, what's the book that you would keep, or what's the book that you wish you'd had? And I was like, so I was on the hook at that point. And so then it became really fun to go back and to think like, well, what would have been fun to read? What would have a lot of depth, but also a lot of meaning and really helped me out. And so that was my gauge as I went through this process and writing this book, and I was laughing out loud. It was just great to recall stories and find ways to weave these lessons of wisdom in there. And hopefully it'll reach more and more of the guys that were like me, that were feeling stuck and lost, but nobody was talking to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And just because if I'm a listener right now, I'm like, God, what happened to you when the dryer thing happened? And because you sort of alluded to something, would you be willing to share just what was the thing? Because obviously losing your mom at 13 was huge in your life, and then it sounds like later on, many years later, there was this other big thing that catapulted you into sort of self-discovery.
Yeah, the event was I was living with I had a girlfriend at the time. We were living together. I loved her and cared for her, and we realized, that she wanted to do other things in her life, and the life that we had there wasn't really going to be it. And I think in our mind we were like, oh yeah, you're going to go do your thing, I'm going to do my thing, and then we'll reconvene at some point. And that didn't happen. Bottom line, the whole abandonment thing that button just got pulled. The rug came out from underneath me. So at a certain point I was like, God, I'm really heartbroken here. And then it was like, oh, this isn't just heartbreak for her. This was this chasm of pain and grief and that kind of thing. And so, so that was the catalyst that got the whole ball rolling, and eventually the whole thing came falling down.
Okay. So it was basically a relationship ended, and then it opened this sort of unprocessed grief and other material just from earlier in your life. So you were like a double whammy.
Double whammy. And I was already just operating right at my limit. I could feel I was going through life most of the time. Like, what do I have to do to make sure the conversation, doing a lot of managing. Oh, okay. What do I do so they don't ask this question? And what are they? It was always trying to see 3-4 steps ahead, and in this fear-based defensive kind of a place, like, and I was really managing. It wasn't obvious to me. It was normal to me. It wasn't until after I'd gone all through that stuff that I realized I was trying to carry 6 gallons in a 5-gallon bucket. And I was just splashing around everywhere, just trying to hold it together. Had no idea until I created a lot more space for myself emotionally. It was like, oh, wow, I've got all this space now, which was a huge relief. And I never could have seen that coming.
Right. Now, in the book, you sort of allude to this, that like a lot of guys are walking around like you were, right? Can you talk about what, in terms of the management of just like, I'm just getting by?
I think we're just getting by. We never really learn how to. You're raising a son, so it might be a little different. But about my daughter, there's a thing we learn where it's just not okay to have your emotions, or we don't know what to do with emotions. And this isn't certainly a huge. I'm not an expert in this arena necessarily, but not knowing what to do with that stuff either means we suck it up and take it on and try to stuff it down and repress it, and things just get heavy and harder to deal with. That was me. I was just working to deal with it as much as possible. But I think a lot of guys just don't know what to do when they feel scared, or they feel uncomfortable, or they feel threatened, or they feel sad, or whatever those emotions might be. And it's one of the big threats that I talk about in the book, which is I've got to do whatever I can to make sure I'm not emotionally uncomfortable. And so when we're on that path to avoid emotional discomfort, life gets really small. There's very few things in our life where that are going to be completely safe emotionally. And so that's one of the things. That's one of the ways that we start to realize, wow, I feel trapped. I feel drained. I feel stuck. Why is that? Oh, probably because I've cut myself off from all these other avenues because I don't want to be uncomfortable physically or emotionally.
Yeah, let's kind of rewind this one and slow this down here, just because it's in the book, and I really love this part, which is this notion of the 3 big threats, and you were just talking, I think, about 1 or 2 of them there. So tell us what the 3 big threats are, and then maybe we can get into like how do we deal with those.
Sure. So let's set a little context. Guys come to me and say, "Hey, Tripp, I want to do X, Y, Z in my career. I want to level up from A and move to B. I want to make more money, or I want to have this kind of thing happening. Blah blah blah." It's like, great. What do you think's in the way? Oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the money. I don't have the connections. I don't have blah blah blah. There's usually those are the reasons why. And what I found though over time is that if we solve for those things, there's still resistance. And so most common, the things that they're resisting is, I don't want to be uncomfortable. What does that mean? Well, obviously I don't want to be uncomfortable physically. Physically can mean just like, I just don't want to do hard work. I don't want to have to put in hard work. This is a pain in the butt. Yeah. So I don't want to do that. Emotionally just might be, those kind of fall in the same realm there of being uncomfortable of just putting in the hard work. But obviously emotionally is like, I don't want to have to deal with any conflict. I don't want to have this conversation with my wife, or I don't want to have this conversation with my business partner. That might be uncomfortable. The second threat is, I don't want to do anything that puts my time or my energy or my money at risk. So we've gone from comfort to risk, a sense of safety, and we're protecting that. Most of the time, though, we highly overestimate the dangers in our life. We we convince ourselves there's a monster under the bed. And so a big part of my job is like, let's go see. Let's turn on a flashlight. Let's go see if there's really a monster under the bed. And we look under there and it's just like, oh, well, this might be risk to your time or energy or money. Is it really true you couldn't bounce back from that? Even if this thing went upside down and it didn't work out, would this really be the end of you? And most of the time it's like, no, it wouldn't. I'd recover. I'd do something with it. They start to see themselves more strong and more resilient, that they can take risks and they can come back even if they fall. And then the third one is the big one, which is, I don't want to do anything that makes me look like a loser or a moron or a failure.
Yeah, image.
This is huge, right? This is the status. This is the self-image thing. And even if we solve for the comfort and the safety, the security stuff, this is the big one. It's like, what will they think of me?
Yep. Huge.
And this can be, like, what will they think of me if they find out? This was true for me. What will my friends think of me if they find out I'm going on a 10-day meditation retreat? I actually told my friends a lie so they wouldn't know that I was doing 10-day meditation retreats years ago.
Yeah.
I was in the closet about this stuff. So even at that level, this feels like a threat. It feels dangerous to own who we are because we're not sure if our group will accept us for who we are.
Yeah.
And so those big ones, so we've got comfort, we've got safety, and then we've got our self-image that are anything that's a threat to those things, we will usually lock down and avoid. And so that means that we spend our lives protecting and pleasing and proving. We're protecting our ass, we're kissing ass, and then we're also proving that we're not an ass. So we spend a lot of time, our entire life, people are like, oh, I want to live with a sense of purpose. It's like, you've got a purpose. If we looked at every single one of your choices throughout the day, you're protecting or you're pleasing or you're proving something.
Yeah.
And that doesn't equal fulfillment. That doesn't equal joy. That doesn't equal freedom, aliveness, love, or peace.
Yeah, fuck, that's so good. Yeah, it's like people get, and this is true for women too, right? They have their own version of this, of just being afraid to be ourselves. It seems like this is the bottom line. Like, can I really be me with all my weird preferences and choices and desires? Can I actually do that?
Right.
You asked me years ago.
Will I lose my career? Will I lose my livelihood? And then my partner still want to be with me? You think about it, like, what, you were coming out of the closet X years ago meant you could lose your job.
Oh yeah.
You'd lose your friends.
Yep.
So it is dangerous. That's why I call this, like, this book will make you dangerous, because we're going to lean into those areas that feel dangerous. You may not die, but that part of us is going to feel like it's going to die.
Yeah. And so just let's unpack this dangerous thing. So when you mean dangerous, you mean like if you actually face your fear, which is scary, there is inherent risk in that on the other side. Like, I'm going to have to go through something probably uncomfortable to get to the next place. And when I get to the next place, I'm going to be dangerous because I have now a new expanded self-awareness? Or what do you mean by dangerous?
You start to realize there's not that much to fear. When we're unconscious of this stuff, we're letting our primitive fear-based brain convince us that something is dangerous, that we are going to die. I'm going to die if I don't have Wi-Fi. I'm going to die if I don't have my latte. I'm going to die if I don't have X million in the bank. Or I'm going to die if somebody finds out I'm going on a meditation retreat. We use that language. We use it kind of as throwaway, but there's a part of us that believes that. It's like, what would people think? Or what might happen if that truth came out, or if these things actually happen? I'm asking people to say, let's stop. What if you didn't have to play it safe all the time? And I love being safe. I love being comfortable. This is my edge too. But it's just recognizing, if I'm tired of feeling trapped, or I'm tired of feeling drained, or I'm tired of being isolated, or I'm tired of feeling bored or overwhelmed, then I can look at those places that feel a little dangerous. And if I could just willing to put my toe over that edge just a little bit, this is going to be dangerous. Start to feel more alive, start to feel engaged. Like, hey, I'm actually doing something here.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything changes, man, when we're orienting, I guess, this way as you're talking about. It's huge. What are some like how okay, so let's say I'm this guy and I'm in these fears and I'm nodding my head right now as I'm listening and I'm like, yeah, okay, busted. I'm protecting myself, my self-image. I'm, trying not to be an
Which we
ass.
do. I just want to say that's the
Yeah.
norm. It's not a binary thing like you do it or you don't. It's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and most of us are walking around wondering if the next, like a new group of people is going to accept us or not. Like that's kind of a given. Seems like human behavior. And so I'm in this, let's say, and I'm starting to like be, a little bit open to what you're saying here. What's my next move?
Let's find one of those areas that feels like a pain in the butt. Because a pain in the butt is a doorway.
Yeah.
It's information. That place where we're feeling trapped is information to help us see where we could be free. That place where we feel drained is an opportunity to find aliveness. That place where we feel disconnected, isolated is an opportunity for love and connection. Boredom, overwhelm, opportunity for peace of mind. So let's say I'm feeling bored in my relationship. Let's say I'm not really feeling that connected to my partner.
Yeah.
Instead of numbing myself, instead of wanting to run away from it, I could get bold. I could be playful. I could get over myself. This is how we respond to these things. I get curious here and say, well, what's the thing that would have me feel more alive today? Not 5 years in the future or once I solve this huge, big problem where I get permission from the world to do X, Y, Z. I can just simply start to ask, what would have me feel more free today? What would have me feel more alive today? What would have me feel more connected to my partner today? And that might be, honey, would you be open to trying this thing out in the bedroom tonight? Oh man, right? I feel this. Like, what's she going to think about me? This is dangerous. This isn't, I don't know if I'm going to be okay here. What's she going to say? Will this cause discomfort? She might get pissed off at me. She might lash out, whatever it might be. She might be like, yeah, that would be great.
Right.
I want to try it. I've been waiting. Yeah, about time. So this is how we find those doorways. We get curious where we're feeling trapped or drained or isolated or bored or overwhelmed. Get curious there, pivot into them and say, all right, how can I use this information to ask for what I want instead of sit around blaming and complaining?
Yeah. How important is it that I have a guide here versus I try to do this myself?
I think it's great if you've got a guide, people that can help you in that process. But a lot of times, as I lay this out in the book, I just ask questions, just coming back, right? It's just that willingness to start small. Most of the time, we think we've got to solve the really big problem in our life first. But a lot of times we can get really just handle the most mundane things. It's like, if I'm looking at the shirts that I could wear today, it's like, well, what shirt feels most alive to me? It could be that mundane.
Yeah.
And we start to rewire our brains to get out of autopilot and into just finding those little 0.5%, 1%, 2% things, and you add those up. All right, what's the way I want to drive to work today? It's longer, it's out of the way, but I really like taking this turn a little faster than I should, or I like the view at the lake. Gives me a little more aliveness. So I think at that level, we can start to tap into that, and we understand we've got a dashboard in front of us that says, is this helping me feel more free, more alive, more loving and connected, or more peace of mind? And we can just start to experiment with the little tiny things as we go. And then when the bigger challenges or the bigger opportunities show up, we've developed that muscle. We can tap into ourselves and say, yeah, I think I've got a sense of what would have me feel more alive. Would you be open to this? Let's experiment.
Yeah, totally. I love that you said kind of like, it's almost like baby steps is what I hear, and just doing little reps with little weights or something initially. But doing something small and then doing it again, it's kind of like James Clear's book, right? Like just doing these little different things to create a new habit or a new way of being, right?
Yeah.
And I think some people think that like transformation happens like in an instant. Like I just had this wake up moment and now I'm a different person. Kind of that's very different from what you're suggesting here, is we do need to turn toward the pain in the butt thing, and start to get curious. And then day in and day out, we can actually grow something there, right? Like if I'm actually turning toward it versus the medication of turning away from it.
And let's be clear that we see the doorway not as a place to wallow, or not as a place, because people can get stuck there. They can
totally.
wound worship, or they can get kind of they get in love with that pain and the drama around the pain.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying see that as a doorway to the thing you ultimately want. that freedom, the aliveness, right? So it's like, all right, well, if I'm sick of feeling trapped or drained, then where's the freedom? Where's the aliveness? What's the thing I'd be willing to try? And I understand it's an expectation that it's not going to be within my comfort zone. It's not going to feel safe. It might be a little risky. I might look like a moron. Somebody might think I'm weird, but I understand that what I want is on the other side of that. So I'm willing to go through that.
Yeah. Nicely said. Let's come back to this first kind of threat, this notion of I don't want to be uncomfortable. And it seems like one of the things that we, especially guys, but a lot of people don't want to do is be uncomfortable around just feeling, right? Feeling stuff. Will you talk a little bit about like feeling your feelings, maybe your journey or some of the people you work with? Like, why is this so essential for relationships, say, like good, deep, solid relationships?
The first part is that emotion is information. That's the way that I there's so many things to talk about here. It's a conversation all to its own. But I love it when guys tap into what they're actually experiencing, as we can use that as information. So if a guy's feeling numb, which is what I usually, I'm feeling numb. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of stuck in this place. And it's like, well, we start to tool around in there, start to do some experiments. I'll go kick him off the edge of the diving board. Now he's not feeling numb anymore. He's feeling alive. He's feeling something. And so I like to use that information. It's like, well, is it having you move towards this or moving towards the other thing? And then we can use that as an inner guidance system. If I'm tired of using my comparisons to others or my bank account or how my wife looks compared to this other person, it's like whatever the metrics I've been using to figure out my self-worth and whether or not I'm on track, I like to give this guy another sense of how he can steer his own life by coming back to what he feels. Now, we can be hijacked by our feelings. We want to understand that. But I'm talking over time, we start to recognize, I feel good when I work out. I feel better. I feel more alive. I feel more access and sharper when I eat well. Great. Same thing with sleep. Like just the basics. It's so unbelievable how many guys are expecting to feel great in their lives and they treat themselves. They're not an ally to themselves. They just beat the hell out of themselves.
Yeah.
And so I ask him, like, why would you expect to feel good if you treat yourself this way, if you talk to yourself this way, if you treat your body in this way? And so it's just getting those things aligned first and foremost, getting your brain chemistry aligned. Give yourself a chance to then start to experience things and say, yeah, well, I'm getting some data here. Now, how do I want to respond? So that's a huge component of why it's important to feel things so that we can actually navigate and direct our own lives instead of being steered by a herd mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. And then let's say I'm married and I'm feeling numb or feeling kind of shut down, and I've gotten comfortable being this way. And you're saying, gosh, I do feel like shit, and I'm actually not taking action. And in my marriage, I'm still kind of shut down. What's something I can do around, like, because it's killing the connection, right? If I'm just this shut down dude with my partner, there's not gonna be a lot of juice there. So what's something someone can do if they're feeling that way?
It's a trap when we think that our relationship has to heal before we can do our thing. And I found that if we take care of ourselves as individuals first, then we can bring energy to the relationship. And so what I typically have guys do is like, let's get you running on all of your cylinders better. Let's get you feeling better. Let's get you in a better mindset. Let's get your chemistry and everything running better. And then start to see how you show up in your relationship differently. If you're coming in out of gas and uninspired, you're going to get the same thing in return. But if you're taking care of yourself and you're walking into the house and you've got energy, you're naturally going to be more curious. You're going to naturally be more playful. You're going to naturally want to take more risk. You're going to push things without having to think about it or having to make it work.
Yeah.
From that place, it doesn't seem like such a heavy lift to have that bold conversation. It doesn't seem so dangerous to propose that, hey baby, let's go away this weekend and let's try X, Y, Z. Because you're already got this momentum happening. You're already feeling good. Instead of waiting for the relationship to be okay and then I'll allow myself to be okay, I like to flip it. Let's take care of you first, get some energy going, and then bring that into the relationship. And that's often when we'll find out, is my partner really an ally to me? Are they aligned? Because if I value myself, if I value my own energy, if I value my own peace of mind, is my partner an ally in that too? Like, I want that for her. Does she really want that for me? As we come back to the 3 threats, most of us are in relationships, sadly, because we just want somebody there to make us comfortable, to make us feel safe, and to make us feel accepted. We actually don't want that other person to be very happy. Mm-hmm. We don't want them to feel free. We don't want them to be alive.
Right.
That's a threat. You might go away.
Yeah.
So you've got to understand, like, what's really going on here is do I have a partner that's on the same page, that we're here to support one another, to challenge one another, to live a life aligned with freedom, aliveness, love, and peace.
Yeah, amazing. Hey folks, I want you to imagine a career that draws on your passion for personal growth and development and relationships, that harnesses your ability to support, challenge, and connect to others, that helps you develop as a person while you're helping others do the same. What if you could earn a living and have a huge impact on the world right now, which is clearly what I think the world needs, is people like you having an impact. So there is a need for you to step into your gift as a helper, those of you who are helpers. And one of the ways you can do that here is study with us at the Relationship School and become a relationship coach. Our relationship coaching training program is called RCT, and it is, I think, an extraordinary place for you to learn about yourself and get better at helping other people. And then finally, to get paid and a great fair exchange for doing what you love. All right, so check out what Matt said about our coaching program.
I found the training challenging and deeply, deeply rewarding. It's allowed me to begin a career transition towards a career as a coach that I find really meaningful and really rewarding. I currently have clients, I have paying clients who appreciate the support that they get from the work that we do together. And doing the course, it has had a significant and very positive influence in my own relationship life as a partner, as a father, as a friend, as a colleague, which the impact is really significant for me. I'm far more happier and knowledgeable in my own personal relationships than I ever was before. It also introduced me to a community of people, of colleagues, of friends who I can turn to when I need support in my own life, in my own relationships, but also offer incredible support and wisdom to help me support my clients in my coaching business. So being a coach, being a professional coach now, it also helps me stay accountable to my own growth and development in ways that I may not be so willing to take on if I hadn't done this program, and if I wasn't serving clients, and if I wasn't supported by the amazing community that I am.
Okay, I loved what Matt said there about this. This work as a relationship coach holds you accountable, and it's helpful to stay on your game when it comes to relationships by helping other people. Okay, it's built-in accountability. Matt's a great coach, and you can find him at relationshipschool.com/coaching. You can hire any number of our coaches. Matt lives in Toronto, Canada, and check him out. He works with individuals and has been trained to do that here at the Relationship School. If you want to check out our training, go to relationshipschool.com/RCT if you want to apply. I know some of you are actually thinking about this, so now is the time to go to that page and go, all right, it's time that I get serious, because we start soon. relationshipschool.com/RCT. All right, back to the podcast. Okay, so I just got a lot there, and hopefully the listener did too. So I'm shut down. I start attending to myself, because I realize, gosh, I keep bringing this shut down, numb energy to my partner, so I'm going to probably get that back. And I start to do some shit to wake up a little bit here and to appreciate myself and get my own cylinders firing, as you're saying. What are, years ago, you and I, we were in a men's group together, and we helped other guys get in men's groups. Is this where a men's group could help a guy? Because let's say he's not taking it to his wife. or partner, he could go to a therapist or a coach or a men's group? Like, what are some other places he could start to learn how to kind of juice himself if he's really struggling on his own?
He might just need to play. He might seriously just be missing fun time with men.
Yeah.
It could be with other men. It could be just in any kind of arena. But most of us have forgotten how to play. And play is a huge. I write about this in the book that play is essential. It's in our DNA. Yeah. It's where we learn how to take risks. It's where we learn how to do things that are risky and uncomfortable. It's an arena for us to experiment. Play gives us an opportunity to get over ourselves because we know we're going to lose sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that play is essential, and so many of us don't have play in our lives as we have gotten older. We've fused ourselves in these roles as husbands and fathers and business owners that we've forgotten how to go be playful. We see it as a distraction. But I see play as essential to our peace of mind, as essential to what has us feel connected to other people, especially men. But it also gives us a place to just work out this energy and then be willing to go fall down and face plant in whatever else thing that we're doing in life, because we've got those. We're not taking ourselves so seriously. We're already a little skint up. I always remember in Fight Club, and guys were walking around. I don't know if I necessarily want to use Fight Club as an example, but there was a thing. It was like, yeah, when you got a black eye or whatever, you just kind of relax. And I'm not so worried about what Joe at work is going to say about my presentation. I got punched in the face last night.
Right.
So I actually had a client. He comes back from his Muay Thai. He's got a black eye, and he's so much more confident about the world. Instead of like tiptoeing around and what people are going to think. He's like, I got punched in the face yesterday. Like, well, how bad could it be? So that was a form of play for him. It was fun for him to go and do that. And I find that he just brings so much more of that energy into whatever we're doing. It puts things into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, but Tripp, I'm injured, man. I can't play because, my body aches and,
Get a trainer. Go work it out. Get a nutritionist. Seriously, your body is the key. You could have all of this stuff humming on all 6 cylinders. And if your brain chemistry is off, your serotonin will always be off. You'll never feel good. Mm-hmm. You'll never feel good. You could have it all happening. Everything could be perfect, and you always feel miserable, or you'll be on your back. So you got to dial in the things that impact your brain chemistry.
Yeah, and again, if I got a bad back or an excuse, basically, it's like go toward that and be curious, right, and start to use that as like fuel for doing something different.
Let's be honest here, right? Joseph Campbell talks about this in The Hero's Journey. I've got a very technical term. There's a point where we start to hear the call. There's a call to an adventure. There's a call to move from our status quo where I'm tired of being on my back. I'm tired of being frustrated. I'm tired of being in a relationship where my wife won't look at me unless she wants X, Y, Z, or whatever that thing is, or we're bartering for sex or anything like that. There's a point where I can complain about it. I might even listen to podcasts. I might read a book. But until he reaches this, and it's a very technical term, it's the fuck it moment. Because up until the fuck it moment, he still thinks something's going to come along and rescue him.
Yeah.
He's going to be rescued. He won't have to do something that's uncomfortable. He won't have to do something that is risky. He won't have to do something where he might lose face. But once he passes the fuck it moment, now he's curious. Now he's willing to get engaged, and he's willing to do something. So as I hear you describe this guy and his excuses, I say, let him make his excuses. He may do it for another 5-10 years. Totally. He's not reached the fuck it moment. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Go listen to podcasts. Go read this book. That's why I do this stuff. But at a certain point, you're going to reach fuck it. I got to do something. I'm responsible here. It's not my wife's fault. Not the world's fault. It's up to me. If I want to make a change, it's up to me. It's time for me to get uncomfortable. It's time for me to take risks. It's time for me to put my self-image on the line.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Years ago, you said to me, I was having some challenge, or something, and you were like, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And that question's always stuck with me really strongly. So thanks for that nugget back in the day. I don't
know where I got that. I don't know where it came from, but I don't think it was mine. But yeah, it's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember what I even did, but I remember the question because it was like, fuck, man, that's such a good question for us to ask ourselves. If I wasn't afraid, like these 3 threats, like what would I actually do here with my life? And I just wanted to say that because I just kind of came to me, and I remember that moment actually at your place in Holiday.
Let me just say something about that, because most of the time I hear one of the excuses is I'm not ready. I'm not inspired. I need to be in the mood. This is where the dependency on our mood and our feelings
On our
can get in the
emotions.
way. It can hijack us.
Yep.
So when we say, hey, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Or what would you do? There's another one. So what would you do if you were inspired? What would you do if you were ready? What would you do if you were motivated? And then a guy will inevitably step into the trap. And he's like, oh, I'd make this phone call and I'd set up a thing to go to the bank and line up the funding. I say, great, do that by Friday.
Yep.
And he does it. You don't need to be confident. You don't need this stuff. No one's asking you to storm a beach in France. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, it's a phone call. It's really simple stuff. It will be scary, but you're totally capable. You can do it, and you don't need to be in the mood to do it.
Amen, man. Fuck, that's so good. Yeah, and I'm not going to hit a home run, right? If I expect myself every time to go out and do the home run thing, I'm just going to stay stuck where I am.
I think this is where it's helpful to have other men, because if you got other men that are doing this and you're all face planting from time to time, it actually starts to get pretty funny. It's like, man, I just made this phone call to this prospect and it totally went upside down, and he laughs and you laugh, and it's not, oh, woe is me, and it's just my world's falling apart. It's not so precious. It's like, and then your buddy's like, great, go make that next call. And you're like, all right, I'm going to do it. And you just do it. And this is where the playfulness, it comes into it. It's like, I'm not taking myself so seriously anymore. I'm not so precious.
Why do we take ourselves so seriously? Why is that so fucking hard for us? God.
We're allowed to.
Yeah. I mean, that's valid.
I think it's a natural extension of our evolution. Is when you're not really under threat, then that aspect of the self gets to be more and more strong. I write about this in the book as well. It's like we've evolved, even though we've got this primitive brain that was initially designed to help us stay away from threats, like things that want to eat us or food that might kill us. We were on guard for that kind of stuff. We've evolved, and so has our identity. This idea of who Tripp Lanier is or who Jason Gaddis is becomes really important to us. It's what we're allowed to fixate on from time to time. And that primitive part of our brain is constantly firing and saying, well, here's a threat to Tripp Lanier. Here's a threat to Jason Gaddis. And it feels like life or death. But we can slow down and zoom out and be like, yeah, it might feel like life or death, but I'm probably not going to die. I can go ahead and make this phone call. Absolutely.
It's not going to kill me. Or I'm going to find out if it's going to kill me, right?
Or I'll have this conversation with my wife and let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see if I die. Probably.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about play being, in a way, one way to move out of our comfort zone, right? There's another, it's like a state shift. It's like if I could wrestle you and we could just mess around that way, or I could go on a mountain bike ride, or I could go surfing, or I could go do something that I actually enjoy. In a way, it's like a state change. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes. When we're playful, we can't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
It's really hard to take ourselves seriously when we're in that playful place. I can still go surf, and it's really about me. I've got to surf really well. Everybody's watching. I got to make sure this cutback is amazing. Oh my gosh, how many waves did I get? I only got 10 today. I got 12 the other day. Does this mean I'm going downhill? Like it can, no matter what you do, you can still be in this narcissistic, fixated place about yourself. So that's why I say playful is that state of mind where you just relax and like, it's okay if I fall down. It's okay. I'll get back up. And I think it's one of the reasons why my wife and I do so well together is that she's constantly taking a piss out of me. It's like she's constantly like helping me see where I'm taking myself too seriously. Yeah. And we do that for each other. Yeah. And it's loving. It's like, oh, thank you. Thanks for the reminder. And I write about this in the book as well. I talk about this. It was our second date, and we knew something big was happening here. And we'd go to Starbucks in the middle of the day, and I won't ruin it, but yeah, I'm going to ruin it. But we go into Starbucks. It's packed. And I'm in full on like, so how's it going? What's your favorite color? And where'd you go to school? I'm just totally trying to get it right. And it's going so bad. She gets so frustrated. She takes a chai, whatever drink foam, and she just turns around and intentionally just sprays me with it, just pops it, and just sprays me with this thing. And immediately talking about that state change, right? I go into and I'm not trying to get it right anymore. I'm not trying to be Mr. Nice Guy. Yeah. I'm running across to the condiment thing and getting these sugar packets and throwing them at her. And we have a full on condiment fight in Starbucks. And we're out of that. Got to get it right. And everything's so precious mode. And we're in that playful place. And that's saved everything.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, it's such a good reminder for all of us. We can just get so locked into my personality, right? And how serious I am about my world. It's almost like I heard also in aggression in there. I don't know if you write about that in the book, but like the Muay Thai kind of fighting thing in the black eye, it seems like a lot of us guys need aggression. I know years ago, a huge step for me was because I was, I went to Naropa University and I was around a lot of talking about feelings, right? At some point I was like, dude, I need to punch someone. I need to like kick something, fight someone. And I started doing things that to kind of move, and it was you could call it playful, but it was like also like a lot of aggression, pent up aggression. So I'm just curious what you think about aggression.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of our nature. And I think if we don't allow ourselves to tap into healthy aggression, then it's going to come out in sideways ways. Like for me, that can show up. My humor suddenly goes from being funny to being biting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's got a little edge to it. It's like, oh, I'm going to take you down a notch. My wife's like, oh, what's going on there? It's like, I got a little zing. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm not speaking up about something. So yes, it's in our wiring to be aggressive. And it's also our responsibility to use that in a wise way. It's not going to go away. Trying to squash it, trying to push it down, it's just going to make it. I think that those are the things that contribute to a toxic sense of aggression.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Shifting gears a little bit, I know just being a coach and being a good coach, you get results for people, and I'm so curious about goal setting. And does this just where you stand on this in terms of so many people set goals and then they fall down and they don't do anything, and then they feel ashamed, and then they're back in this cycle of like not being able to kind of keep getting up. You say something about having targets, goals. And why that could be super valuable?
First, it's kind of weird because I actually have a problem with goals. I have a problem with dumb goals.
Okay.
Dumb goals are, all right, I'm going to run a marathon, or I'm going to make $1 million, or I'm going to get 8% body fat, or whatever. And it's like, okay, and then they just put their heads down and they go. And then they inevitably it just makes them miserable. And they give up, or they stick it out and they're still miserable. It feels hollow. It's just like, why in the hell did I do that? When we set goals, we want to understand what that measurable outcome is in service of. Most of us don't understand that a goal is a theory. If I'm going to make $1 million, if I'm going to run a marathon, if I'm going to have 8% body fat, whatever that thing is, my theory is it's going to have me feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And the problem that I see, especially with a lot of successful men that I work with, is that they put their heads down. They accomplish their goals. It happened, and then it didn't feel right.
Yeah,
they felt
like
trapped.
Right.
They felt drained. They felt like, where are my friendships now? Why am I bored? Or why am I overwhelmed? It wasn't supposed to be this way. So what that tells us is that whether they knew it or not, they had a theory that if they accomplished this big goal, this amazing goal, they were going to feel free. They were going to feel alive. They were going to feel loved and admired and desired. They were going to feel peace of mind that they were doing something worthwhile with their time. So I say, why don't we set some SMART goals knowing that the end game are these experiences? We know that no matter what, you want to feel free, alive, connected, and at peace. Because if we went and created something and you felt the opposite of that, you'd be really disappointed. You'd be pissed off. So then everything I would say that would become the purpose. Then are those experiences, and then I say, well, let's go create missions now. Missions, these experiments, to see what expands your sense of freedom, what expands your sense of aliveness, what expands your sense of love and peace of mind. And then our business becomes something that empowers us to have these experiences. Our relationships are there to empower us. Mm-hmm. And we're never welded or stuck. We're always able to course correct because we understand what we're playing for, these emotions, not the marriage, not the business, not the product, not whatever that thing is. You got to be a little careful because, again, you got people that just want to feel good all the time. I'm not talking about a hedonistic thing here. We will go through the dip. We will go through the suck. I would argue that when we're just running away from things that don't feel good, we actually feel anxious a lot of the time because it's like, oh no, what's going to happen? I might be uncomfortable.
Right.
But so the point being is that we want to set SMART goals with the understanding that we're going to check in. Is this allowing me to feel greater freedom, aliveness, love, and peace?
Yeah. And you mentioned those specifically. Are those freedom, love, aliveness, and peace?
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, those seem like really good ones to aim for me.
I say that just because when you say fulfillment, I can ask a guy, so you feeling fulfilled today? He's like, I don't know. But if I say, are you feeling free today? And he's like, no. And he can zero in. What's not having you feel free? He's like, look at my schedule. Like, you feeling alive today? No. What has you feel? I got to do all this work. I'm under pressure for this thing. So we can zero in on those specific areas, and it allows us it gives us things where we can work on and say, okay, great. In service of greater freedom, we would go move the needle in this area. And then ultimately we're working on that sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, cool. When you say freedom, Tripp, what do you mean?
Most people think freedom is flexibility. Oh, freedom is I can go, I don't have to be at work until 11, or I can make my own schedule, or I've got the money in the bank. I can go buy a laptop whenever I want, or whatever those things are. That's nice. I think freedom is ultimately that sense of whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. Mm-hmm. I've got the resources and the skills. I can bob and weave. I can figure things out. I'm able to move. I'm able to course correct. I allude to a Bruce Lee quote in the book. He's got a different take on it. He says something to the effect of like, freedom becomes the man the moment he stops worrying about what others think of him. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the other ways that we put chains on ourselves, is like, well, I've got to meet the expectations of myself or my parents or my dead parents or whatever that thing might be. That's one of the ways that we enslave ourselves in that way. So it's good to understand that freedom's not really tied to a bank account, because I know a lot of rich guys that do not feel free.
Yeah, so this is a slippery slope, I think, for people. Like you're saying, freedom is attached to almost an outcome again, versus this choice that I can have throughout the day of doing what I want. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Well, it's not just do what I want. It's really what's happening between my ears. I can't do that. That might be uncomfortable. I can't do that. That might be a risk to my time and energy. And I can't do that. What would they think of me that's not free? That's a prison. That's a form of prison.
Big time.
The freedom comes from, I'm willing to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I don't really want to, but I'm willing to.
Yeah.
I'm willing and able to take some risks. I don't want to lose my money. I don't want to lose time. I don't want to waste anything, but I'm willing to. I'm willing to get over myself. There's the freedom. Now I've got access to all of these options. All of these opportunities are available to me. I can go down any road that I choose because I'm not limited by my fear of freedom, or by my fear of discomfort or risk or looking like a moron.
Yeah. Nice. So the opposite of freedom might be something like you said, like a prisoner feeling trapped. Talk about, I'd love to just get your take on this. Like, a lot of guys think, say, marriage or a relationship, they're going to feel trapped. And you and I have talked about this over the years about actually a marriage helps me maybe feel more free and more who I am. So talk about just your take on that in terms of the fear of feeling trapped either in the job, but specifically the marriage.
This comes back to a point where we've got to understand what's the purpose of our relationship. What's the purpose of our marriage, for lack of a better term? Most of us got married so we would feel comfortable.
Yeah.
We got married so we would feel safe. We got married so we would feel accepted. Comfort and safety and acceptance are important. They are necessary. They are part of our needs, but they will not equal fulfillment. They will not equal that expansive sense of who we are ultimately. We can be very comfortable. We can be very safe, and we can be accepted, but we can feel like a shell of a person. Mm-hmm. We can feel like we're hiding out. We can feel like a stranger in our own home.
Yeah.
If we understand that the purpose of our relationship, and this is my challenge for the listener out there, is like, what's really the purpose of my relationship? Is it just to make me comfortable? Is it just to have me feel safe? Is it just to have me feel accepted? Or do I want a partner that empowers me and stands behind me to feel more free, more alive, more loved for who I truly am, and to have a greater peace of mind? That's going to open the doors to a lot different behavior. That means we're going to start telling the truth a bit more often. That means we're going to be more skillful. It means we're going to put more things on the table and be more curious with one another. We're going to start taking chances. We're going to go into the places that seem a little uncomfortable. What's she going to think of me when I say I want her to put her finger in that place tonight? It's going into those places that are just, I don't know. This is edgy.
Yeah.
So that can be a really fun, I don't know if fun's the word, maybe for some people, but like where we start to polarize a bit. It's like, what am I really taking a stand for in my relationship? The guy who's tired of feeling stuck or drained, my sense is that he's playing for comfort and safety and acceptance only. He's not willing to look beyond that. The opportunities are on the other side of that. What would have me feel more free in my marriage? I'd have this conversation. I'd speak up for this. I'd say I want to do XYZ. I'd propose ABC. And then understand that might create a dust up, but I'm playing the long game here. Yep. And then to recognize that if I play for freedom, aliveness, love, and peace in my life, I may start to see that the current partner is not aligned with that. But I'd rather play for what I want ultimately and then find the partner that wants to join me there or where we're aligned in that stuff. It gives me a sense of peace of mind to know that, hey, we just weren't a fit. We just weren't on the same page about those things, instead of I have to stuff myself into this box in order to keep the peace.
Totally. I'm curious if you see this a lot, because we're getting into this, like, so a guy starts to wake up, or one of the partners starts to wake up and go, wow, this is what I want. I'm going to start telling the truth here. I'm going to start being myself. And the other partner's starting to feel threatened, right? Because there's change, something moving in the system here. I'm guessing you deal with this. What do you often? I'm curious how you approach it when one partner wants to kind of go, oh my God, let's go further. Let's start doing something. Let's expand things here, and the other partner's kind of clamping down.
It's understanding that it's fear, right? It's the fear that we're going to break connection. I'm going to feel less connected to you. That I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be at risk. Our finances might be at risk. Our home might be at risk. What are you doing? It might be that you don't accept me, you don't love me for who I am anymore. If you understand that those are the things that are at risk, and you got to get curious with your partner. Hey, I'm going on these trips. I'm meeting lots of people. It seems like this would be threatening. What's the most threatening thing for you? Instead of you saying, well, you're gone a lot. What's the fear, right? Oh, you're going on another thing. Oh, you're going to go meditate again. Like, okay, what's the thing that you're wanting instead? See if you can draw that out. Mm-hmm. Instead of, okay, well, I shouldn't meditate as much, or I shouldn't read these types of books in front of her, or I should, like, whatever that stuff is, just come back to what's the real fear here. And I think a bit of compassion is needed. Imagine being in the other place where your partner is growing and changing, and how that could be really uncomfortable for you too, not knowing if this person's still going to love you and accept you and want you around. Yeah. Is this person still going to love me if I'm not on the same page with them? So I think this is where it's great to have a guide and a third party to help navigate those things, but to ultimately come back and recognize it's not the content of her complaint. If you're doing XYZ or you're learning about ABC, it's really going to be the quality of the connection. Is your efforts and your growth pulling you away from each other? And is that really what you want? You got to be honest. If you want out, then get out. Just be done. Yeah. But I like to create an invitation instead of, you better step up and get on the personal growth train and blah, 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 or you're out. It's more like, hey, here's the possibility. I see this relationship as a place where we could support each other in this way. And you could be doing ABC and I could be doing XYZ, and we could be there to have each other's backs in that. Would you want that too? Mm-hmm. And they might be just like, no, I want to go back to what we've always had. Right. Taco Tuesdays and movie night on Friday, like whatever that is. Like, I don't want anything more. I don't want to talk about this stuff. I just want to go back. And you're like, okay, great. Then we're not on the same page. Yeah. No hard feelings.
Right. Yeah, this is huge. I want to really underscore one thing that stood out to me there, which is getting curious. If I'm with a resistant partner or a scared partner, instead of telling them to step up and shaming them or, whatever, judging them, kind of getting into superiority or self-righteousness, I could just say, honey, it seems like you might be scared. Like, if I start changing over here and things are different for me, what are you scared of? That seems like a really cool conversation to have. I mean, uncomfortable for sure, but so welcomed. And the other person might get defensive, but at least it's an effort to tell the truth about what's probably going on.
What might happen? What's the fear that you got that might happen? Instead of saying, hey, I know how you feel, it might just be like, what are you afraid might happen? Yeah. I'm afraid we're not going to, go to blah, blah, blah anymore. I was like, okay, cool. What if we could address that directly and, kind of come back to these monsters under the bed, draw them out. A lot of times they don't know. They just feel scared, but they're not really sure why. So let's see if we can see what those big, terrible things that are hiding under there and see if we can address them directly and what it does is it demonstrates you matter.
Yeah.
I want to know. Like instead of like, honey, come on, I love you, baby. It's more like, no, let's address this. By doing that, you're demonstrating you matter to me. I care. I don't just want to get you off my back.
Right. Yeah. Or drag you along or whatever.
Right.
Just to get personal, I'm curious just given the listener, you have a great marriage, at least from over here, and the years we've spent together, it seems pretty awesome to me. And I love Allison and what you guys have together. Give us like one or two things that make your relationship great.
Humor. We have a common language with humor that I can't imagine us not having it. Mm-hmm. It's a way that we don't deflect with humor, but it's one of those ways where we can use it to immediately put things in perspective. We spend a lot of time laughing together. Well, what does that do? It lets our nervous system know that the other person's with me. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're with me. I actually have a hard time. I can't trust people that can't play and can't laugh. It's hard for me. It's like, well, what's going on? What do they see? What's dangerous that's happening over here? Why do we need to be so serious right now? So we're back to that mammal behavior of play being a natural way that we socialize and we connect. And then we're serious when there's a tiger around. We better pay attention. Yeah. So we spend a lot of our time laughing and enjoying life together and playing in that way. And I think that that's what gives me a deep sense that I am loved and I'm really gotten and I'm appreciated. And then she's masterful at being curious and wanting to really understand what's going on for me and having a ton of space there. I learned some really valuable lessons early on that she had more room for me than I had room for me. There was a period where after we got married, there was a part of me that was committed to being single and playing the field for the rest of my life. And I just was pissed off and I was disconnected from this part and I didn't want to deal with it. And she was like, I've got room for your anger. I'm here. And I was like, it's not okay for me to be angry, but for her to love me more than I could love myself, essentially in that moment, I really got that she was an ally.
Yeah.
And so it's finding all these little ways to communicate, not just say it, but to demonstrate, I've got your back. Mm-hmm. I'm your ally. I'm not here to wrestle you for power. It's not about that. It's just, I've got your back. I want to support you in what you're creating. And what that does is it just inspires me to do the same for her. It's like, I just want to have her back. Like whatever she's creating, it's like, let's go, let's do it. Let's get you the resources you need. Let's make that happen. And it's a much different dynamic than like, okay, it's Tuesday. You get to have the clicker for the TV and that kind of this wrestling match back and forth. It's much more about, how are we supporting each other to have the freedom, aliveness, love, and peace that we ultimately want. Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. And if you want to check out their relationship a little more, we dive deep into some of their dynamics. I'll put the episode number in the show notes. I can't remember which one it is. So listener, if you want to check out more about Tripp and Allison's relationship, we did an awesome episode on that. So go check it out. We'll put that in the show notes. Tripp, dude, it's so good to see you. Where can people find your book and you and your podcast?
The book is available wherever you get books. Easiest place, obviously, is Amazon. In whatever country you're in, you can get it off of Amazon. And then if you want to learn more about my coaching, you can go to tripplanier.com. And then the podcast that I've been doing for ages is the New Man Podcast.
Yeah, amazing. He's interviewed so many rad people and just full of value and humor and fun and growth. So, Tripp, one more question. If I always ask my guests this, if one of our missions here at the Relationship School is to reach young people, and if I had a room full of, let's say, 1,000 high schoolers, and you were whispering in my ear and I could only tell them one thing, what would you want me to tell them?
It's going to be okay.
Nice. I can just breathe into that.
It's an edgy one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just remember being that age and like, it's not going to be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. Best to you and your family. Thanks for doing what you're doing out in the world.
Yeah. Much love to you, man.
Okay. Action step. It was awesome, right? make sure you go check out Tripp and his podcast, thenewmanpodcast.com, I think it is. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. TrippLanier.com, Lanier.com. Tripp Lanier. Tripp is with 2 T's. And lots of great resources there. If you want to work with Tripp, hire Tripp, buy his book, etc. Okay? Super great. Okay, your action step on a more personal level is to write down those 3 fears, all right? The fear number 1, right from his book, what do I do so that I don't feel uncomfortable? Fear 2, what do I do so that I don't miss out on an opportunity or put something I care about at risk? Okay, fear of missing out. Number 3, what do I do so that I don't look like a loser, right? Or fear of losing status or recognition and being judged, criticized. These fears hold us all back. And man, I think it's so important for you to just write those down and see if they're true and what version of your fear do you do, right? Tripp mentioned several there in the podcast. And then share this with a friend. Share your fears, just look them right in the eye, do a Zoom call. Or if you're not socially distanced because you live together, family members, whatever, go on a walk, look someone right in the eye and say, hey, just want you to know, I am holding back in my life because of these 3 fears or because of this second fear. And I got this from a podcast I listened to. And just own it with the other person, right in the eyeballs. Let them know. It's very vulnerable, very freeing if you can do that. Because a lot of us stay stuck in shame, hiding out in our fear, hiding out in our shame, medicating, distracting, avoiding. All right? Tripp is great at finding your intrinsic motivation to transform your life. So, love that. And I love him. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this one. And remember, we are enrolling for our relationship coaches training right now. Relationshipschool.com/RCT. If you've ever thought about working for yourself, living a life of service and meaning, and making money, getting paid well for the natural helping skills that you have, come check us out. Okay, it doesn't cost anything to apply. Right now, relationshipschool.com/RCT. Sometimes we have a fee to apply, but right now it's, I think, open. Come apply. We are over halfway full. We're getting close to filling up, and we'd love to see you and meet you here. Not everybody is accepted into our trainings, but most of you people are, because you're just good human beings that are motivated and want to transform your life. We're just looking for people who are really hungry to change and grow themselves. We're looking for people who want to learn a better way to do conflict and relationships. And we want to help people, train them to become effective relationship coaches so that we can reach our mission of reaching 1 million young people, 10 million families, and change culture. It's one of my missions here in life, is to change culture. Okay, I do that when we all learn how to grow ourselves up relationally, and then we help other people do that. So consider being a relational leader. Come studying with us, all right? Relationshipschool.com/RCT. All right, thanks. Talk soon. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Share one of these videos with a friend. We want to help the planet get their act together around relationships, and you are one of them, so thank you.